all around us. In every part of the UK are skilled teams of eagle-eyed men and women, working alongside the police to keep us safe. They're the people on the front line, tackling the hazards that place us in danger.
As a family, life is so different. It's just absolutely heartbreaking just to know that he's not here.
They're cracking down on those who threaten our families.
My mum was getting somewhere in the region of 30 scam letters delivered every day.
They're protecting us from new dangers that lurk online.
As soon as I transferred the money and I saw my account say 0, I knew.
These men and women make up the UK's enforcement teams, our defenders. Today, our defenders crack down on the ticket touts, making millions of pounds ripping off music fans.
They will take those tickets and they will sell them at 3, 4, 5 times the price, sometimes even more.
They investigate an illegal waste business, polluting the countryside with dangerous toxins.
The blue and black fumes, kind of smoke, going across the field, and it was really, really stinging my eyes.
And they lock up a pair of fraudsters, conning people out of their pensions and ruining their retirements.
They got away with an awful lot of money, being liars and cheats and deceiving people. Hopefully they won't be able to do anything like that again.
Maybe we found love right where we are. Sing this back for me, sing oh.
Tickets for this Ed Sheeran concert, in aid of the Teenage Cancer Trust, should have cost £75 plus booking fee. But some of the tickets were being sold for thousands of pounds. And instead of the money going to charity, it went straight into the pockets of illegal online ticket touts.
And we found love right where we are.
Now our defenders are joining forces with Ed Sheeran's manager to crack down on touts who snap up tickets, then resell them at a massive profit.
The minute those tickets are listed on a primary selling platform, the touts get in there with their sophisticated software, buy up the tickets in their hundreds and thousands, so it's very, very difficult for consumers to get a fair crack of the whip. We see this as real exploitation of genuine fans.
Fans like Lucy Litley.
I've got a couple of guitar picks here. These ones were used. So one of them was from the Cardiff show. It was night 1 back in 2018.
Lucy is a self-confessed Ed Sheeran superfan.
So I've also got a couple of set lists. The first one here was from Leeds, show number 1. I think it's just a nice way to remember the concert. It's obviously been on stage, so it's really quite cool. Sometimes you get like the footprint on there and stuff, so that's quite nice to just remember the show by, really. I'd say I was quite a big fan. I mean, I've stopped myself going to university this September so that I can go and save up and follow him on tour. I started out seeing him in Wembley in 2015. I wanted to go to a lot more before that, but I was too young. Then throughout the years, it's just gradually built up. So I saw him 9 times last year. I did 2 Prague shows, I did Haymarket, both Leeds shows, and all 4 Ipswich.
In total, Lucy's seen Ed Sheeran 22 times.
When I see him live, my favourite thing is just being with all my friends, because they're literally my favourite people in the whole world, and it's just so nice because obviously Ed brings us all together and it's just like a family, really, and yeah, that's important. Gives us an excuse to get together, and obviously just seeing Ed, like, he's great.
Being an Ed Sheeran superfan is an expensive hobby.
For me to go to so many concerts, I've been working for years. I literally just work. I work about 65 hours a week, and the majority of that money, other than like bills and car insurance and stuff, I will put into savings, which I will then spend on going to see Ed.
Teenage Cancer Trust Royal Albert Hall, thank you so much.
There's always a high demand for tickets, and shows like this are frequently targeted by online touts.
They will take those tickets and they will sell them at 3, 4, 5 times the price, sometimes even more. It is so unfair, and they are ripping off fans left, right and centre, really.
Online touts use secondary ticketing websites like Viagogo to resell tickets.
The most that we have ever paid for an Ed Sheeran ticket was back in Birmingham. He'd just come off his break, we'd not seen him for a year. So desperate to go and could not get tickets. We just thought we'll go through Viagogo, and we paid £520 for 3 tickets. So yeah, it was quite expensive.
Sylvia Rook is the lead officer for fair trading at the Chartered Trading Standards Institute.
As an individual, you want to know that you're getting what you're paying for and you're not paying over the odds. If somebody is twisting the rules or breaking the rules and making a huge profit out of you, so a ticket that you would have paid £100 for, you're actually paying £200 or £300, they're making a profit. So it's an issue which affects everybody.
Ed Sheeran fans aren't the only ones to be exploited by the touts. Many major artists like Adele, Beyoncé and Coldplay, and hit West End shows like Harry Potter have all been targeted.
The touts get in so quickly, literally the second tickets are listed on the primary platforms. Genuine consumers, genuine fans of artists or people who want to go and see a West End show never get the opportunity to buy the ticket at the face value in the first place.
Mike Andrews is head of the National Trading Standards e-crime team. Mike is our defender.
In one case, tickets that were retailed at face value for £75 were then sold on secondary platforms for £7,000. So that's almost 100 times the face value of the ticket. We see this as real exploitation of genuine fans. If you're a really, really big fan of Ed Sheeran, for example, you will pay that price because you really, really want to go and see the artist perform live. And the touts know this, and therefore they're exploiting those genuine fans and leaving them with no option but to pay these massive markups for tickets.
National Trading Standards started looking more closely at the activities of online touts.
We were specifically tasked initially to look at the high volume sellers. There's nothing illegal per se in selling tickets on secondary platforms for concerts. If, for example, you've bought tickets and you subsequently find you can't attend the event for whatever reason, it's perfectly reasonable to expect to be able to resell those tickets. But what you can't do is buy tickets in huge volumes, pretending to be a consumer when in fact you're just a limited company that's purely existing to buy and sell tickets, and then offer them at hugely inflated prices.
Mike wanted to find out how the most prolific touts were buying so many tickets so quickly.
When we first set out on this case, we'd identified a number of individuals who were persons of interest, and we knew to a certain extent the volume of tickets that they were buying and selling. What we didn't know was exactly how they were going about that buying and selling process.
These two online touts, Peter Hunter and David Smith, quickly become the focus of the investigation.
We'd identified Peter Hunter and David Smith through some work that our colleagues in the National Trading Standards Intelligence team did, where they analysed the volumes of tickets that were being bought and sold both from the primary platforms and then being sold on the secondary platforms. And Hunter and Smith, amongst others, were identified as those selling in the largest volumes.
Hunter and Smith ran BZZ Limited, a company set up to buy tickets, then sell them at inflated prices.
If you think of the markups that were being applied to some of those tickets, we knew that as a result of that they were making millions and millions of pounds and therefore defrauding consumers out of large sums of money.
Later, Ed Sheeran's manager joins our defenders in the crackdown on ticket touts.
To have people take advantage of fans and us in that way is just abhorrent.
From construction sites to classrooms, office blocks to operating theatres. Wherever we work and whatever we do, more of us than ever are enrolling onto a pension scheme and saving for the future. For most of us, our pensions are our largest financial asset. But we need to remain vigilant. Pension scams, like the one run by these two fraudsters, promise high-performing investments and a comfortable retirement. But it's all a con, designed to trick us out of our life savings.
If you receive a telephone call out of the blue or a text message from an unknown number offering you a pension review, ignore it. Put the phone down, delete the text message. These things are illegal.
Pauline Padden has worked for the NHS for nearly 40 years. Much of that time as a critical care nurse.
I look after children and babies that are born with heart conditions. We have a ward of 20 children at varying degrees of wellness. Some children we can only fix for short periods of time. Some of them we fix for maybe 15 years or so, and then some we do fix completely. It's quite rewarding, especially the ones that we see and go home, the ones that we see that we improve their quality of life. That's all positive feedback for us.
Pauline took a break from her career so she could look after her terminally ill mother. It was then, out of the blue, that she was approached by a company claiming to offer free pension advice.
I got this text message out of nowhere, just asking me did I have any pensions that were frozen, that I wasn't using, or that I wasn't doing anything with, basically.
Pauline, now aged 58, had 2 pensions, but wasn't paying into either of them. The text said that if she moved her money into a new pension scheme, she'd get a one-off, tax-free cash payment.
The offer of a fee from the pension was like a gift as far as I was concerned. And I thought this was an answer to lots of things at the time, really, because I knew I had 2 pensions that I wasn't adding to at the time. They were old ones. It just felt like a lifeline, like as if it could really help me in my situation, and it could also help my future.
Pauline called the number on the text and spoke to an advisor.
He was very amenable, very easy to talk to. He said, you know, if you move these, that you will get a fee off the investment company because that, you know, they're happy that you're moving your money to them. So I thought, great, this is a win-win situation for me.
The new pension scheme was with a company called Gresham Investment Pension Scheme.
He told me that they were sound investments, that they were going to be building property in the Caribbean that people were going to buy or they were going to rent. It was going to be like a holiday resort. I would get a good return on my investments.
It sounded great, but it was a scam. Beth Harris is head of the Unauthorised Business Department at the Financial Conduct Authority.
People work hard for, majority of their lives, really, and many of them do pay into a pension and have saved up, in some cases, quite a substantial pot. So that makes it highly attractive for the scammers to try and get in there and target your money that you've put aside for your comfortable retirement.
Pauline's free review recommended she move her money to Gresham Investment Pension Scheme. As an incentive, she'd get £4,000 cash-free. It sounded too good to be true.
The way he put it was, well, you're not doing anything with these pensions at the moment. You're not adding to them. They're not growing at a substantial rate. If you put them with this company, your return is going to be much better with them.
Pauline moved first one pension, then the other, to Gresham Investment Pension Scheme. In total, she transferred £45,000.
It all sounded really positive and good for me at that time. I was starting to think about pensions and things. I was basically planning my retirement in a better way than what it was at that time. I didn't feel that I had anything to worry about. I felt positive about it.
Pauline didn't know it yet, but she'd just become the latest victim in an elaborate multi-million-pound pension scam. She'd never hear from Gresham Investment Pension Scheme again.
I didn't get any documentation, I didn't get any phone calls to say, oh, this has gone through or that's gone through. Nothing through the post, no emails, anything.
I think scammers will just prey on any opportunity they get to get your hard-earned money from you in any situation, and we see that in our line of work. It's not just pensions, it's anything. We get people who are very conscious of reporting fraud and reporting things to us because they feel embarrassed or ashamed that this has happened to them, and they shouldn't, because we all have those moments where a scammer can just catch you, and it genuinely can happen to absolutely anybody.
When Pauline's mother passed away, and then her father's health took a downturn, she pushed any concerns she had to the back of her mind.
I found myself in situations where I wasn't thinking about it because I had lots of other big things going on in my life. So really, I pushed it to one side because I didn't want to deal with it.
The truth was, Pauline had lost her entire £45,000 retirement fund.
I was upset, I felt stupid. I didn't want to think about losing all that money. I didn't think there was anyone I could go to. It wasn't like I could go to the police and say, oh, this has happened and that, because it wasn't that sort of crime.
Pauline wasn't alone. Hundreds of people had fallen victim to the same scam. Later, our defenders close in on the fraudsters.
Alan Barrett and Susan Dalton had a complete disregard for the people that they convinced to transfer their money into these schemes. They were motivated by their own greed. It was really awful.
We've seen how online touts make millions buying tickets, then reselling them at vastly inflated prices, ripping off ordinary fans.
They will take those tickets and they will sell them at 3, 4, 5 times the price, sometimes even more.
Lucy Litley is an Ed Sheeran superfan.
I do not like ticket touts. They're taking away people's happiness, and if people fall for their traps, like I did in the past, they're taking their money, exploiting them, manipulating them, and preying on them to ensure that they get gain for themselves and that other people lose out.
The National Trading Standards e-crime team, led by Mike Andrews, launched an investigation. They quickly identified 2 prolific touts, Peter Hunter and David Smith.
Hunter and Smith bought and sold tickets for a range of artists. A large focus was on music, concerts, so we saw them buying and selling large numbers of tickets for Ed Sheeran's current tour at the time, and also for Adele. But we also recovered large quantities of tickets for Peter Kay's forthcoming tour, and also they were selling tickets for West End shows like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Mike's team applied for a warrant to search Hunter and Smith's home address in North London.
During the course of that search, we recovered a large amount of evidence. A lot of digital devices were seized, laptops and computers and mobile phones.
Hunter and Smith were running a highly organised operation involving specialist software and super-fast internet connections.
This was a very, very sophisticated operation. Hunter and Smith were using multiple identities. They were using sophisticated software that would allow them to automatically enter those credit card details of the dozens of different credit card details far quicker than any human could possibly enter those details, which therefore allowed them to buy those tickets in split seconds, the second that they were listed on the primary platforms. Average consumers stood no chance against the sophisticated operation that Hunter and Smith had set up.
Sarah Smith leads a trading standards team investigating rogue trading and scams across South Wales.
The role of trading standards, no matter where people and how people are being exploited, is the same. You know, they're still being conned, they're still being ripped off or defrauded. And, you know, to me, it's the same principle. We're still there to help protect people.
So what we see here is an extract of the emails from one of the computers that was seized from Peter Hunter and David Smith, and this shows the individual ticket receipts or confirmation emails that they received, and these ones in particular here are for Ed Sheeran's tour, and we can see here 4 tickets that were purchased for the gig that was at St James's Park in Newcastle on June the 9th, another email that shows another 4 tickets that were purchased but in a different identity for the same concert. And there are 7,495 emails in this mailbox for a very, very wide range of different events. The most crucial evidence in this case was the electronic evidence, the evidence that we recovered from the computers that Smith and Hunter were using. That allowed us to map out the exact process from the original purchase of the ticket through to when they then sold them on the secondary platform. In total, we estimate that they made over £4 million during the course of this fraud.
Their downfall was the sheer scale of their criminal operation.
Hunter and Smith demonstrated the kind of behaviour that we often see with online fraudsters, in that they become greedy. It's quite easy to make a fast buck, to rip consumers off online and to a large extent think that they're above the law.
But they weren't above the law. In the first case of its kind, Hunter and Smith faced a criminal court, charged with fraudulent trading.
This is a landmark case. Nobody has ever been prosecuted for the buying and reselling of tickets. So after a long and complex investigation, Hunter and Smith stood trial at Leeds Crown Court. There was lots of evidence that was presented in the court that we were using to demonstrate the scale and sophistication of the operation that Hunter and Smith had been running for a number of years.
Among those supporting the prosecution was Ed Sheeran's longtime manager, Stuart Camp.
I was in court giving evidence about how we operate and how we like things to be done, and our opinion that these people were defrauding our fan base.
Stuart decided to take a stand when he discovered touts were making massive profits out of a charity event.
What really came to my attention and sort of focused myself and Ed on this is we did a Teenage Cancer Trust shows at the Royal Albert Hall, and we found tickets for that show, which probably were on sale for £100. There were people selling them for £8,000, and we're pretty damn sure 7,900 of that was not going to the charity. That made us absolutely furious, because our whole thing is making a decent experience from the minute you buy a ticket to the minute you go home from the show. And to have people take advantage of fans and us in that way is just abhorrent. So that's what really started the ball rolling between myself, our promoters, and our live agent. Really sort of decided enough was enough, and this was going to be a focus of us, to try and eradicate this issue from our own shows.
Stuart's evidence was key. After a 3-month trial, Peter Hunter and David Smith were found guilty of fraudulent trading. It was a victory for ordinary fans and for the National Trading Standards e-crime team.
It's a criminal case. It's fraud that Hunter and Smith were prosecuted for and found guilty of, and that really does set a marker for those who seek to continue to operate in a similar way.
Hunter was jailed for 4 years and Smith for 2.5 years. They lodged an appeal, but in 2021, that was rejected.
Previously, a lot of people were operating on the belief that this was quite a grey area legally in terms of what could and couldn't be done. I think what the NTS have done is a huge success, and it certainly will be, you know, making people think twice about going down that same avenue.
This case draws a very clear line in the sand that says that those who buy and sell tickets, who conceal their identity, who use multiple identities, who use bots, who use other sophisticated software to buy tickets and then resell them, that is a fraud, that is a criminal offence. And we will continue to monitor the activities of those who engage in those activities and prosecute them as necessary.
As for future events, life's becoming harder for the online touts and easier for genuine fans, thanks to the work of our defenders.
What they're doing is taking a stand against the ticket touts and the unfair exploitation of fans. And for fans like me and many of my friends and everyone else that works in the music industry, we are so grateful for it, spreading awareness to everybody in the industry.
There's a real sense of having achieved something. It's just about knuckling down, it's educating people and just making sure we can do as much as possible to avoid these tickets falling into the wrong hands.
Charlotte Milton is an environmental crime officer. It's Charlotte's job to protect our communities and our countryside, and to crack down on those who disregard environmental laws. From serial fly tippers, leaving trails of rubbish in their wake, to criminal gangs dumping waste on an industrial scale.
Being an environmental crime officer is making sure that the environment is in a fit and proper state, people can enjoy that environment and people's health is not impacted by these illegal waste activities. Because environmental crime impacts everybody, people, wildlife and the natural environment.
Charlotte is our defender.
I really care about the environment and I really care about my job, stopping people from blighting the countryside and affecting the environment that we all want to love and enjoy.
Burning commercial or household waste out in the open without authorization is illegal. It can release dangerous chemicals harmful to people and the environment. So when Charlotte got a tip-off about piles of rubbish being set alight at a farm near Amersham, an Environment Agency investigation was launched.
We received one report from the council about metal waste potentially being stored on site. We also received a couple of anonymous reports about burning of waste. It was my role to go out and see if those activities were actually happening and substantiate them.
The father and son who ran the farm, David and Nicholas Channer, had already been convicted for similar offences. If the reports were true, they were at it again.
We often scope a site out before going there. We'll go round the outside and try and look in the back because sometimes waste is hidden and you don't always see it from the front entrance.
At first, Charlotte couldn't see anything suspicious. If there was any illegal activity, it was well hidden. Then, Charlotte found a footpath that took her around the perimeter of the farm and gave her a great vantage point.
And as I looked across the hedgerow, I could see into the back of the farm. And I could clearly see then there was a different area on the farm where waste was being stored.
There was a huge pile of scrap metal, including washing machines and other household appliances, towering over the hedgerow. It looked as if the tip-off was a good one.
As soon as I saw that big pile of scrap metal, I knew that they weren't allowed to have that, and that was an immediate offence.
Kev Knight is a senior environmental crime officer working on a special multi-agency unit set up to tackle waste crime.
Without the public informing us, we would not know half the stuff that goes on. We really rely on intelligence and information coming into us. You know, that can be via Crime Stoppers, that can be by phoning the Environment Agency's hotline. We need to know what's happening, because if people don't tell us, we won't investigate it and we won't stop this happening.
It was the breakthrough Charlotte had hoped for. Everything from white goods to building rubble and hardcore was being stored at the farm.
It's great when you can come along and then you can actually see the offence already happening from outside the site.
With her suspicions confirmed, the next step was to confront the farmer, David Channer. But neither he nor his son were present, so Charlotte went ahead with a site inspection.
The landowner wasn't there, but there was somebody who lived there who allowed me to walk round.
There were several more piles of waste. The farm was being used as an illegal storage site for household waste.
Doesn't look like it's come from here. So this is in the wood pile. What I identified was waste, not generated from the site. It was clearly brought on from other places. It was kind of clear that they were bringing waste back to that farm after collecting it from people's houses. Under the exemption, if there's anything else I can see that's got an address on it.
Instead of paying to dispose of it properly, the Channers set fire to it.
I documented what I saw, and then following the visit, I then wrote to the landowner to explain what I saw and to tell him to stop bringing waste on and to clear the site of waste.
There was no response. So a month later, Charlotte returned to the farm, this time with council enforcement officers.
Again, the landowner was not on site, so we proceeded to the area where the waste was stored.
The same huge pile of scrap metal was there, and there was evidence of more waste being hoarded.
It was still evident that waste had come on from other places, for example, households, builders' yards, etc. It was really disappointing to me because I'd sent a letter to them to say stop accepting waste and to clear the waste, and they clearly hadn't adhered to that.
Then, Charlotte noticed something that gave her real cause for concern. There was a fire at the far end of the field, with smoke billowing overhead and toxic fumes in the air. As she approached, Charlotte started to film.
It's all fresh deposits. This wasn't here before, so it's pallet waste, treated waste. You could see the blue and black fumes, kind of smoke, going across the field, and then as I got nearer to it, you could see blue flames coming off the fire.
The smoke had a chemical odour. Disposing of waste in this way is a serious breach of environmental laws.
It's just not normal what it would. I knew it was like plastics burning, and I could see that plastics were burning in it, amongst other things, sort of household as well as kind of business waste being burned.
Burning plastics is extremely harmful to the environment and to human health.
It was really, really stinging my eyes.
Despite the effect on her, Charlotte was determined to carry on filming.
Burning waste, such as plastics, can really affect the environment. It releases dangerous toxins into the air, and when things are burnt, they can also go into the ground, into the soil, into the water table, and it can really impact people's health.
Despite their previous prosecutions, the Channers were continuing to ride roughshod over environmental laws.
This time, you know, it's happening further down the field, out of sight, and they thought they could get away with it.
Charlotte and her colleague sent the Channers countless warning letters and paid several more visits to the farm. The Channers were never there, and the warnings were ignored.
I was banging my head against a brick wall. Each time I went back, you know, there was still waste there was still burning of waste.
The mound of smouldering ash got bigger with each visit.
It's very rare to find a waste fire happening before your eyes, so I was really, really surprised to see it on several occasions during this investigation. These people do not care, and they did not want to listen to our advice and take any action.
Charlotte carefully documented each visit and every piece of evidence, and a prosecution case was prepared.
Both the channers ignored all the warnings and advice and guidance they received from the Environment Agency. They clearly had no regard for the environment or for the Environment Agency.
Waste crime can be a number of different things. It can be the misdescription of waste going into landfills. It could be theft of catalytic converters and cables. It could be farmers burying waste illegally in their fields. So it can be a number of different things. When you look at the amount of offending going on out there and the damage to the environment, you become quite passionate about tackling these criminals and the offences that they're committing.
Both father and son were convicted for waste offences. David Channer got a suspended sentence. His son, Nicholas Channer, was jailed for 8 months.
I think these sentences send a really strong message out to other businesses. If you're going to keep on offending and committing illegal waste activities, we're going to come and investigate you and we're not going to let you get away with it.
Earlier, we saw how critical care nurse Pauline Patton transferred £45,000 into a bogus pension scheme.
It all sounded really positive and good for me at that time.
Pauline was the victim of a multi-million-pound scam, but she wasn't alone.
The victims came from a wide spectrum of backgrounds. They were ordinary people. They had various different jobs, various different walks of life.
They all had one thing in common. They'd been tricked into transferring their money into a fraudulent pension scheme.
They were looking to prepare themselves for their retirement and they fell victim to this awful scam.
Kelly Campbell-Jones is a lead investigator at TPR, the pensions regulator. Kelly's job is to protect pensions and prevent fraudsters from getting their hands on our money.
My role at TPR is as a defender of workplace savers, people that have saved hard for their retirement.
Kelly and her team received a tip-off about a series of suspicious money transfers. Cash was being withdrawn from various legitimate pension schemes and moved into scam schemes.
TPR first became aware of this enterprise by some whistleblowers. They contacted us to report their concerns about the activities of one of their colleagues.
The man in question, David Austin, was receiving money from various pension schemes involving these two, Alan Barrett and Susan Dalton. The whistleblowers suspected it was a scam.
They had gathered financial records where they were able to show bank statements where money had come in and gone out. They were able to provide email traffic in relation to the transfers. They were also able to provide us with things like brochures and sales scripts.
The brochures looked genuine, painting a picture of high returns and a comfortable, carefree retirement. But the truth was, the pension schemes were fraudulent. Barrett and Dalton were part of a sales team operating from this office in Alicante, Spain. From here, they cold called hundreds of potential victims with pre-prepared scripts, promising high returns and urging people to act quickly.
You'll get people who will just target you either through cold calling, through websites, saying, I've got this great investment for you. If you move your pension pot to this, you can get X amount. It's fantastic. Trying to put pressure on you. We find some people will send couriers round to people's houses to try and get them to sign documents there and then. If there was ever a legitimate investment, there would never be that kind of time pressure. So if anyone is making anyone feel that way, don't give in to it, because that is a telltale sign of a scam.
The fraudsters offered their victims cash incentives if they transferred their pensions. And once they had them hooked, Dalton and Barrett did everything they could to close the deal as quickly as possible.
We're really running out of time. That's the final sort of piece of the jigsaw, and then we can all get paid.
Recorded phone calls revealed some of the ploys used to pressure victims into making rush decisions.
Because the investment's been made and the stocks have been bought, we need to transfer the money. And we can't do that without your say-so or your signature. So can you give me a call back and give me the good news that you've done it all and sent it all off?
Some of the pension money was invested in a Caribbean holiday resort, but that never materialised. Most of it was used to fund Austin's businesses and lifestyle, or went into the pockets of Barrett and Dalton.
It became very clear that this was a serious case where scheme funds had been misappropriated, they'd been handled dishonestly.
The scale of the fraud was now becoming clear. Hundreds of people had lost their pensions.
In total, approximately 245 people transferred into these schemes and were victims of this fraud.
The total amount of money lost was £13.7 million. A lengthy criminal investigation was launched. David Austin died before it could be concluded, but his phone and laptop were seized as evidence.
Some key information had been deleted from those devices, but we were able to obtain evidence that supported that he really had been the ringleader. A lot of the money, in fact the vast majority of the money, went to David Austin to fund his personal lifestyle, which was quite lavish.
Barrett and Dalton had been trustees of the scam pension schemes and had played key roles in the fraud. Kelly and her team were ready to charge them.
Once we'd built the case against them, we then had to overcome quite a big hurdle because both Barrett and Dalton were based in Spain.
Police were able to arrest Dalton at Manchester Airport when she made a return visit to the UK. But Barrett had to be extradited.
We worked closely with the Metropolitan Police Extradition Unit in order for them to go out to Alicante and bring him back so he could face the courts.
Alan Barrett and Susan Dalton pleaded guilty to fraud by abuse of position as trustees of the pension schemes. The judge told them the offences were extremely serious.
He said, "What is the most striking is the impact on others, which has been utterly devastating. The victims have been robbed of their financial security."
Barrett and Dalton were jailed for a combined total of just over 10 years.
The message is, you will be brought to justice between us, between the law enforcement agencies, where appropriately the case falls. One of us will take that forward, we will investigate, and hopefully we will all make a collective effort to get monies back to people and to bring these people to justice.
I felt it was justified, the sentences, what they got. They got away with an awful lot of money, being liars and cheats and deceiving people. Hopefully they won't be able to do anything like that again.
Whether we're buying tickets for the latest show or planning a comfortable retirement, our defenders are out there, ensuring we get a fair deal, safeguarding our money, and seeking justice on our behalf.